Top of the hour on a busy Friday, closing out a very busy week, and we come on the air with a record close on Wall Street. A record high for the Dow as investors rally on the blockbuster new jobs numbers, beating out a whole bunch of expectations. So is the economy actually pulling off that so-called soft landing? And the search and rescue mission in the Southeast growing more urgent by the hour. Thousands are still without power. Many more are struggling with missing the basic critical supplies. What communities are doing to dig out and why it's taking so long to recover even those basic essentials. And then we're going to take you to Michigan, where Vice President Kamala Harris is trying to rally support from auto workers as perhaps the most popular Democrat in decades gears up to make his return to the campaign trail. Just over a month from Election Day, by the way. And then the celebrity attention breathing new life into a 30-year-old murder case. Why, the creator of that super popular Netflix show about the Menendez brothers, he thinks the pair could be out by Christmas. Plus, can a so-called miracle pill trending all over the internet actually help us live longer? We're digging into that coming up later in the newscast. Good day, I'm Tom Costello. I'm in for Hallie Jackson. We come on the air with the market closing just in the last hour, with the Dow hitting a record high yet again after a new jobs report blew out expectations, really just blew them out of the water. Here are the indices closing way up. The Dow up 341 points, about 0.8%. The S&P up 51 points, and the NASDAQ up 219 points. This S&P number, by the way, up 20% year to date. The data is showing more than 250,000 jobs were added in September. That beat the forecast. Here was the forecast. 150,000 jobs created. No. 254,000 jobs created. That helped the unemployment rate tick down, now to 4.1%. The estimate was to be remaining at 4.2. So yet again, good economic news. This comes barely a month before the election, when polls suggest many voters will be thinking about the economy and their wallets when they cast their ballots. President Biden earlier today spoke for the first time from the White House briefing room, touting the economy, the progress, and hitting back at the naysayers.
From the very beginning, we were told time and again that the policies we were pursuing we'd put forward weren't going to work, make things worse, including some of the other team are still saying they're going to make things worse. But we've proven them wrong.
NBC's Brian Chung covers business and economics. So, Brian, a stock market hot streak might be a boost for your 401k, all-time records, but it doesn't necessarily mean a solid economy. So what should the takeaways be from the gains on Wall Street and the stronger-than-expected jobs numbers?
Well, Tom, as you know as well, sometimes good news for the economy ends up in bad news for the stock market. Bad news for the economy sometimes ends up in good news for the stock market. But today, what's good news for the economy is leading to good news in the markets as well. And that's because this jobs number shows this jobs market in America is firing on all cylinders. As you mentioned, 254,000 jobs added in the month of September, well above what Wall Street economists had expected. And what's also notable is that this was broad-based. It was across many different types of industries. When you talk about leisure and hospitality, bars and restaurants adding almost 80,000 jobs in the month, but also construction jobs. That's really important as well, adding 25,000 jobs in the month. That could spell perhaps even more job gains for manufacturing in the future, depending on where those construction jobs are. I was texting with an economist earlier this morning that said this jobs report, as, by the way, the Federal Reserve is cutting interest rates, shows that we are, quote, comfortably clear of a recession. So not yet mission accomplished, but that's a really good sign. And even when you look at other banks and what Wall Street is saying, Tom, Bank of America gave this an A+ on a report card. A+ on that report.
Really a stellar economic report all the way around. And the Democrats, the party in the White House, they kind of own the economy, right? The unemployment rate at a 50-plus year low. The stock market, as we said, all-time high. Consumers keep spending, but voters often focus on how much they're paying for their groceries, and inflation has taken a bite out of family budgets.
Yeah, and look, you can't discount that either, right? Inflation is still taking a bite out of wallets. It's still uncomfortably high, but there's a reason why President Biden decided to take a victory lap and make his first appearance in the briefing room during his presidency. And that's because he wanted to talk about the economy and talk about this jobs report, which, as I mentioned, is good across the board. Now, when it comes to the overall economic picture, other indicators look pretty good as well. Again, GDP is still growing. You have solid job gains. You have the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates right now, which, by the way, they deserve some credit for taking steam out of the economy and making inflation go lower because of their higher interest rates. But the last piece of the puzzle is getting inflation down to the target. Right now, the recent read on inflation, 2.5%. Fed wants it to be closer to 2. We'll get another read on inflation next Thursday, Tom.
I'm going to make this real quick, but this certainly seems like a recession is no longer on the table. They have managed to land this thing into a soft landing, they being the Fed, independent from the White House.
Yeah, independent from the White House. Again, Jay Powell, who heads the Fed, was appointed by Donald Trump, but he has done the job of raising interest rates and now lowering them as inflation is coming down. It's not yet mission accomplished, so you could think of the plane on that soft landing. The wheels are on the tarmac. We got to see if they can stick the rest of the landing.
My betting is they will. Brian, thank you. Brian Chung. In the southeast, the search for people missing in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene is still running into roadblocks at, golly, just about every turn, as the death toll from the storm now stands at a staggering 223. A week after the storm made landfall in Florida, people across the southeast are still isolated, many without power and struggling to get by. That's especially true in the remote mountains of North Carolina, where rescue teams and volunteers are dispatching helicopters, all-terrain vehicles, along with teams on horseback and mules to reach some of the most hard-to-reach places. And we've got new videos showing the terrifying moments floodwaters swept away parts of a building and a shipping container. Look at that. More than 672,000 people are still without power in the Carolinas, in Georgia, and in Virginia. Relief pouring in from people and places across the country, including superstar Dolly Parton, who announced she's teaming up with Walmart to help people in need, as well as giving a personal $1 million donation.
Who knew? In our little part of the country here, where I was born and raised, just right down the road, that we would have this kind of devastation. This is a time for me to step up again, for all of us to step up and do what we can.
Everybody loves Dolly. By the time the final costs are tabulated, Helene could cost upwards of $34 billion, that from Moody's Analytics, putting the storm in the top 10 costliest hurricanes ever to hit the U.S. NBC's Antonia Hilton is in Asheville, hard hit, Asheville, North Carolina. Antonia, you spent the day out in Asheville's River Arts District. People love that place. It's been transformed by this vibrant, this terrible hurricane. So what are you hearing right now?
Hey, Tom. Yeah, this is an iconic part of North Carolina. I mean, this is a community, the artistic community here. They bring tens of millions of dollars to Asheville every single year. And when you talk to people of any background here, they tell you it's the artists that make this place special. And I've been with them all day today as they've gone inside of buildings. They've been trying to find their life's work, see what they can salvage, equipment, paint, brushes, and all kinds of stuff, just trying to figure out how they're going to pick up the pieces at this point. But that's a really hard job to do, Tom, when you still don't have running water, you still don't have power. That means you can't really hook up any kind of cleaning equipment. You can't remove the mud that many are worried now is toxic. And they're not professionals. They're here just trying to save what they personally can. Take a listen to a conversation I had with one of the artists today.
I've spent a lot of time in the studio here, and I just went in there, and it's hard to look at. There's just there's mud on everything, on all the equipment that we've used to make beautiful art. We're just trying to do what we can to save what's left of our art community here.
And Tom, I got the chance yesterday to actually go in a helicopter with the National Guard and some first responders and see why this recovery is so challenging. And because of those mountains, I mean, they're beautiful, but they're also complicated. It's really hard for them at times to land, to deliver aid. It's hard to see through all the trees and the brush to see who might need help, who's left an SOS signal of some kind. And so that is why you have officials telling people to be incredibly patient. The recovery is going to take weeks, if not months or even years in some cases. And communities like this one, they're hearing they might not get something like water back for several more weeks. And that is just devastating, as you can imagine.
Water for several weeks. Antonia, thank you very much. We'll check back with Asheville in the next hour. More breaking news in the Persian Gulf right now, with U.S. and British forces today striking more than a dozen Houthi targets in Yemen, going after weapon systems, bases, and other equipment belonging to the Iranian-backed rebels. U.S. Central Command has confirmed the strikes, which come just days after the Houthis apparently shot down a U.S. military drone flying over Yemen. And the U.S. strikes come as tension in the region continues to escalate, with Iran's supreme leader today warning of more attacks against Israel after a new wave of Israeli strikes in Beirut today, targeting Hezbollah's presumed new leader. We have team coverage of this. NBC's Aaron McLaughlin is in Tel Aviv. We first go, though, to NBC's global security reporter, Dan DeLuz. Dan, give us a primer on what's behind the Houthis' latest attacks, and how does this all fit into Israel's conflict with Hezbollah and Iran?
Tom, you know, the Houthis have been striking at commercial ships, both, and U.S. naval vessels in the Red Sea now for months. They've attacked over 100 ships over the past year, and the U.S. Navy is often shooting down these missiles and drones that are going after commercial ships or trying to get at the U.S. Navy there. But in the end, commercial shipping has been really affected by this, and most major cargo companies are just bypassing the area entirely. Now, this is all happening against the backdrop, as you say, of this growing conflict between Israel and Iran. And the whole region is now expecting Israel to retaliate for Iran's missile strikes earlier this week that targeted Israel. And now the Houthis are this proxy force that Iran arms and supports. And so the fear now is that the Houthis may ratchet up their attacks either on U.S. Navy ships there or on commercial ships that are still trying to get across that Red Sea waterway. So this is an example of how this conflict is affecting so many countries there. And keep in mind, that's where oil moves through that region to the rest of the world. And the Gulf countries on the other side of Iran's Persian Gulf there, they're concerned about how this conflict between Israel and Iran could affect them and could in turn affect the oil markets.
Yeah, and the Houthis are proxies from Iran. Dan, thank you very much. Let's go now to Aaron McLaughlin. She's in Tel Aviv. And Aaron, turning back to those latest Israeli attacks on Beirut, what do we know about who was targeted and what the fallout is looking like in the region right now?
Hey there, Tom. Well, according to Lebanese officials, there were more than 150 airstrikes by the Israeli military in the last 24 hours. Some of those strikes, according to an Israeli official, targeting Hashem Safiuddin. He is the cousin and presumed successor of the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, who was assassinated by Israeli authorities last Friday. He is believed to have been more radical, more hardline, according to Middle East analysts, than Hassan Nasrallah, described as, quote, bloodthirsty. Now, we know he was targeted in that strike. It's unclear if he was killed along with other Hezbollah leaders who were believed to have been meeting at that location in southern Beirut in the overnight hours. This as the ground offensive continues in southern Lebanon. There was a briefing today by an Israeli military spokesperson who said that since Monday, since the beginning of that ground invasion, they have killed some 250 Hezbollah fighters, but it's been bloody for Israeli military as well. At least 9 soldiers have been killed so far in that effort to clear Hezbollah from villages along the Israeli border. And this spokesperson was asked during this briefing if this mission, as it stated, is successful and they were able to clear that area along the border, then what happens next? What will Israel do to prevent Hezbollah from simply coming back and repopulating those areas? And the spokesperson did not have an answer to that question. He said it was a question for the political echelon here in Israel. Tom.
Okay, Aaron, thank you. All quiet in Tel Aviv at 12:15. Thank you very much. Let's head now to the campaign trail where Vice President Kamala Harris is focusing on Michigan. Here she is in the Detroit area in just the last few hours, accusing former President Trump of not doing enough for auto workers.
Now he is making the same empty promises to the people of Michigan that he did before, hoping you will forget how he let you down. But we know if he wins again, it will be more of the same.
Harris's next stop is Flint, Michigan, and that should happen sometime during our newscast. So we will let you know when she is appearing there. And soon she'll get a hand from arguably the most popular member of her party, former President Barack Obama. He plans to make a return trip to the campaign trail on Thursday with a rally in Pittsburgh. NBC's Garrett Haig is in Flint, Michigan already. And Garrett, Obama has a lot of just cross-party appeal. He seems to be playing a bigger role now than he did during the Biden campaign 4 years ago. Why? And could he have an impact with voting already underway?
Well, I think he certainly could, Tom, and some of that is the nature of the differences between the 2020 campaign, where most people were experiencing the campaign from their homes, sometimes even the candidates campaigning from their homes, and 2024, where we are back into this large-scale rally format like where I am with the vice president here in Flint. You know, for Democrats, Obama is the closer. He is, as you said, arguably the most popular figure in the party, perhaps surpassed only by his wife. And when it comes time to turn theoretical supporters into actual voters, Barack Obama is the kind of person the Harris campaign would like to see out there. So you could think of him as the Mariano Rivera of campaign season here, out to bring it home for the vice president, particularly in these big cities, particularly where African-American turnout is going to be so critical to her coalition.
Hey, Garrett, we're just now getting word that the vice president will appear on the popular Call Her Daddy podcast. Is that part of a strategy to reach younger audiences or get out on even more alternative media?
Tom, just hearing you say that makes this entire hit worth it for me. Look, Call Her Daddy and Alex Cooper are enormously popular with young women. I guarantee your daughters listen to it. I know my wife is a fan. If you are trying to turn out young women voters, particularly young women voters who care about abortion rights, you could do far, far worse than engage it with Alex Cooper, who has an incredibly dedicated fan base who really take a lot of their cues from her, sometimes even on political issues. The simplest way I could explain who she is, and this is totally reductive, is what Joe Rogan can sometimes be for young men, Alex Cooper can be for young women. I think this is a very smart booking by the vice president to get in front of people who might not otherwise be voters, but who can potentially engage with her on these issues where she and Cooper agree.
Kind of an answer, if you will, or a rebuttal to Joe Rogan.
Absolutely.
Rogan, sorry. Garrett, thank you very much. Garrett Haig, who's in Flint, Michigan already. All right, now to the former president who in the last hour received a briefing on the damage from Hurricane Helene. He's in Georgia standing side by side with a Republican he hasn't exactly gotten along with, the state's popular Governor Brian Kemp. Mr. Trump saying he feels for the first victims while, again, baselessly attacking FEMA for the response.
A lot of the money that was supposed to go to Georgia and supposed to go to North Carolina and all of the others is going and has gone already. It's been gone for people that came into the country illegally, and nobody's ever seen anything like that. That's a shame.
Mr. Trump alleging that hurricane relief money is going to illegal immigrants. It's ahead of Mr. Trump's big return tomorrow to Butler, Pennsylvania, the site of the first assassination attempt against him back in July. NBC's Shaquille Brewster is in Evans, Georgia. I got two questions for you. Number one, that kind of takes people by surprise. Alleging hurricane relief money is instead going to illegal immigrants. Shaq, I'm guessing you haven't had time to do a fact check on this.
Well, no, we did. I tried to ask the former president, where is he getting this information from? What evidence does he have that FEMA is redirecting money, which, by the way, would be illegal? And he did not take that question, or at least hear my question when I was asking as he was here. So if you want to go through the details of this, look, he gets that number from the fact that there is money allocated to help cities deal with the influx of migrants. FEMA helps distribute that money that is congressionally mandated. That fund is completely different than what we know to be the Federal Disaster Response Fund. The Federal Disaster Response Fund, FEMA is warning that because of the way the Congress has funded the government over the years, that they may need more money if there's another hurricane. But essentially Donald Trump is trying to conflate those two things. We've been repeatedly saying that, FEMA is saying that this is not true. We know it's not to be true, but it's something that the former president continues to repeat as recently as a couple of hours ago as he was standing next to Brian Kemp here.
All right, let's underscore that. Your sources and FEMA all saying that it's not true. Let's look ahead to tomorrow. By the way, the former president, we understand, is in Fayetteville, North Carolina right now. And looking ahead to tomorrow, what will we see when he's back in Butler, Pennsylvania, 3 months after that assassination attempt? Is he going to feel safe? And I'm assuming the Secret Service is going to make sure that they are prepared.
Yeah, let's talk first from the campaign side, because they are trying to build this understandably as a big moment for the former president. There's a whole list of special guests that you'll see there, including J.D. Vance, including Elon Musk, including the family, by the way, of Corey Comparator, who was the firefighter who was killed at that rally. I spoke to his sister a couple of weeks ago, actually, and she said she appreciates when the former president brings him up and talks about his memory. It's a way of kind of keeping his memory going and keeping his spirit alive. But we do know this, of course, was the same site of that assassination attempt back in July. And Secret Service is saying that they are taking this seriously. Two officials telling our colleague Kelly O'Donnell that you can expect to see that ballistic glass. You can expect to see drones, more counter surveillance teams and counter sniper teams. Excuse me. And there'll be a high security presence there at that rally.
Okay, Shaq, thank you. Shaq Brewster, who's on the ground for us, reporting live on the Trump campaign. A new wave of college protests around the war in Gaza could be on their way. Why one pro-Palestinian activist is telling students there's, in her words, nothing wrong with Hamas. And an Ohio woman TikToked the discovery of a rolled-up rug buried in her backyard. How do you think police responded? Well, they swarmed the property. We're going to show you that coming up. Okay, back now with tonight's original in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching here. And we are now looking at the anniversary of the Hamas October 7th attack on Israel. It is approaching fast. And the number of people killed in the war in Gaza, tops 40,000. College campuses across the country are getting ready for a new wave of demonstrations. Our Tom Winters sat down with the leader of one group helping to organize pro-Palestinian protests, now facing congressional scrutiny over their message and methods.
Our people are by your side.
New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles. Campus protests erupting across the country last spring, a response to Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza after the brutal terrorist attacks on October 7th. Hundreds taken hostage and over 1,000 dead, then tens of thousands killed in Gaza and mass destruction. Closer to home, new questions about free speech, extremism, and foreign influence. Not to mention hundreds of arrests and questions from Congress about some of the groups involved. One drawing scrutiny?
There is nothing wrong with being a member of Hamas.
Samadoun, a pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel advocacy group.
These are the people that are on the front lines defending Palestine and fighting for its liberation.
That's Samadoun co-founder and international coordinator Charlotte Cates, taking part in Resistance 101, a webinar held in March by a student group at Columbia University. Samadoun, which means steadfast in Arabic, is banned in Germany and Israel for its vocal support of designated terror groups.
Most of what we do is kind of the activism that you see people do every day in their communities. So that's organizing demonstrations, that's organizing political education events and seminars.
Kate spoke to us remotely from Vancouver, where she was arrested on hate speech charges for defending Hamas's actions on October 7th at a rally.
Long live October 7th!
Samadoun has co-sponsored several protests in the U.S. over the last year, both on campuses and at major events like the DNC. We wanted to get a better sense of what Cates is saying to college students and protesters.
Do you think the Israeli state has a right to exist?
The so-called Israeli state is a settler colony, and it never had a right to exist. There's no such thing as a state's right to exist.
You've supported Hamas's actions on October 7th. Is that accurate?
And when we have spoken about October 7th as a brave, heroic operation, that is something that we stand by 100%.
So you look at the events of October 7th, not only as something that you support, but you also believe that it was justified.
I think that Palestinians fighting for their liberation is an absolute right.
Throughout our almost 2-hour-long interview, Cates called Israel a colonizer or referenced colonialism more than 40 times, including after several questions about the death of Israeli civilians on October 7th.
What do you say to those concert that did not have a weapon? Was it heroic for that action to take place?
I do think it is heroic that Palestinians broke out of the siege on Gaza. Palestinians have a right to resist, and that what we saw on the 7th of October was a heroic operation designed to achieve the Palestinian people's liberation.
I guess the question is, where does it end? Do two wrongs make a right?
We're not talking about two wrongs. We're talking about a colonizer, and we're talking about a colonized people fighting for freedom.
Cates has said similar things in her speeches and webinars with students.
And they took an action that they understood is necessary in order to make change.
Members of Congress now asking questions about Samadoun's funding.
How we can make sure we are following the money.
Following the money isn't easy. A U.S.-based nonprofit, Alliance for Global Justice, processes donations on Samadoun's behalf, and tax law doesn't require them to report who is giving Samadoun money. The Alliance for Global Justice didn't respond to our request for comment, but Cates says her organization follows all U.S. laws and regulations. In a letter to the Secretary of the Treasury, House lawmakers have asked for reports on 20 organizations involved in campus protests, including Samadoun, looking into where their money comes from.
How much money, even if it's just a ballpark, would you say Samadoun has raised or you've raised here in North America?
I mean, we've raised thousands of dollars.
Ultimately, the question here is, where's your money coming from? Where are you really getting your support?
Well, one of the things that's really amazing about standing against genocides is that, like, a lot of people want to see the genocide end. There's sometimes this discourse about, like, funding of protests that makes it sound as if, like, having a demonstration requires hundreds of thousands of dollars. No, it just requires, like, hundreds of people that actually care about a cause.
A cause that led Cates to Iran in August, where she accepted a humanitarian award, drawing even more scrutiny. But she told us she's not funded by nor affiliated with Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, or any U.S. designated terrorist organization.
Support can be anything from money to services to personnel.
Laura Burns spent 2 decades at the FBI investigating terror groups.
Certainly there's a component of the protest activity that are individuals who simply want peace. But if you look closely at a number of the activities and the organizations that are involved in these protests and encampments, there is a theme of support for Hamas, which is a designated terrorist organization.
Whether that support violates federal law, something called material support, can be difficult to prove, Burns says, without tax reform.
The laws surrounding tax-exempt organizations' reporting requirements should be enhanced to require more transparency and more accountability.
We asked Cates about questions raised by lawmakers that she and her organization are effectively acting on behalf of U.S. designated terrorist groups.
The concept of material support requires that there is a form of material support. You actually have to, provide money or weapons or services to that organization, and that's not what's happening here. We're talking about expressing moral and political support.
There are no known criminal investigations in the U.S. involving Cates or Samadoun. In the midst of the Jewish High Holy Days, and as the anniversary of October 7th approaches, tensions are high. There are Jewish student groups around the country saying they worry about a repeat of last spring. Some protest groups say Congress is unfairly portraying their demonstrations as pro-Hamas when they are calling for peace. And universities and cities, caught in the middle, challenge to balance free speech with public safety. As for Cates, she says her organization will continue to speak out.
Essentially, we're seeing a situation where Palestinian lives are considered nameless, expendable, and pointless And Israeli lives, even if they are literal soldiers engaging in a colonial war, are considered precious and very important.
What do you all see for October 7th this year, or around that time period?
There's many actions and demonstrations being mobilized. We're going to be out in the streets and we're going to be mobilized until this ongoing colonial project comes to an end.
Tom Winter joins us now. You know, freedom of speech. She can say whatever she wants, right?
That's right.
On the other hand, she calls Hamas's October 7th attack heroic. More than 1,000 people died. And there is a legitimate concern about the people living in Gaza and their plight. But where does Congress stand on all of this?
So there's been a recent development in this. One of the organizations that we talked about, the Alliance for Global Justice, there was a letter that was sent from the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, Jason Smith, asking the IRS to look into them and ultimately strip them of their nonprofit status. So that's ongoing. They cite some of our previous reporting on both that organization as well as Samadoun. So this is something that is definitely relevant at this time. Whether it ultimately leads to any sort of action or criminal charges, we'll see. And as you know, we noted in the piece, we did reach out to that organization that is processing these payments. So that's kind of where that stands. This all comes, Tom, as the FBI tonight warning about these October 7th protests and wanting people to be vigilant here in the next couple of days.
Yeah. Did I miss this? You said she's in Vancouver, Canada. Why? Is she Canadian?
She's in Vancouver. That's where she's based. That's where she's living. She was arrested there as part of a rally and a speech that she gave, and potentially facing charges. They can make an arrest. Whether or not they ultimately go through with a criminal prosecution, that's something we'll be tracking as well, Tom.
On this Rosh Hashanah night, thank you very much, Tom Winter. Let's get you over now to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about. Number 1, a new lawsuit is accusing country singer Garth Brooks of sexual misconduct, including assault and sexual battery. That, according to a lawsuit filed by Jane Rowe. The incidents happened over several years while she was working as his hairstylist and makeup artist. Brooks has denied the allegations, filing his own complaint, alleging Rowe tried to extort him for millions of dollars, saying he's been hassled to no end. Rowe's lawyers say Brooks is trying to silence his accuser, calling the complaint attempted intimidation. Number 2, California now confirming 2 human cases of bird flu, bringing the total to 16 so far this year. The CDC says both patients had contact with infected dairy cattle. No link, though, between the cases, and both are expected to be okay. Number 3, police moved in fast after an Ohio woman's video of a rug buried in her backyard went viral. The woman said she and her husband were digging a hole when they found a rolled-up carpet. Police and cadaver dogs came in to investigate, and both dogs sat on the hole. According to our affiliate, police say pieces of the carpet tested negative for human and animal remains. Number 4, a federal judge in Missouri has put President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan on hold yet again. Just yesterday, a judge in Georgia let a temporary pause on the plan expire. It's all part of this lawsuit by multiple GOP-led states, which say that the administration's aid package is illegal. Number 5, Spirit Airlines shares plunged nearly 30% today after the Wall Street Journal reported the airline is potentially filing for bankruptcy. Spirit stock has lost more than 85% of its value this year after struggling with the fallout of its failed merger with JetBlue. Later in the newscast, a bird's eye view of the destruction brought by Hurricane Helene, what our correspondent saw when he took to the skies over Tennessee. And a new show is breathing life into the Menendez brothers' attempts at freedom, why the docudrama's creator says they will be free by Christmas. We're coming back. Back now with our top story out of Tennessee, where the aftermath of Hurricane Helene has left multiple communities inaccessible and in dire need of help. A week after the storm battered the region, supplies are pouring into disaster relief centers as helicopters fly out nonstop to deliver them to people who need them most. NBC's Morgan Chesky joined an Army National Guard chopper crew in their race to help the victims.
High above a battered Tennessee, we join the Army National Guard in a Black Hawk helicopter. Turn Lifeline.
And if you look out over the beautiful hills of Tennessee, this is what was partially responsible for so much damage, because when you have 30 inches of rain falling in a short time, all of that water converged on these river valleys, wiping out nearly everything in its path.
Our first stop, Elk Mills, Tennessee. The flood damage near catastrophic after waters destroyed 2 crucial bridges, essentially cutting off the entire town.
It's heartbreaking because there used to be a fire hall right there where that helicopter's sitting, and it washed away with the tanker truck. So it's devastating.
The site of so many supplies, bringing Becky Vines almost to tears, knowing the goods flown in by her town another day or two.
It's amazing that they will come together like that to help this small town, this small community, everybody that's been impacted by this flood. It's amazing.
Back in the air, the storm's path couldn't be more clear.
And as we look down right now, you are going to see a hillside with trees absolutely flattened. This was not a tornado. This was just the aftermath of the hurricane when it tore its way through here.
From there, we went to hard-hit Unicoi County, where officials reported 4 additional deaths on Thursday. A high school now the epicenter of its recovery efforts.
Is there anything that this community doesn't need right now?
No, there's nothing. There's nothing.
Tim Love guiding an army of volunteers, rushing to reload choppers, knowing time is precious.
Our county's cut in half. Was cut in half. We've lost a hospital, and we've lost life, but we're banding together.
Our final flight took us to Mitchell County, North Carolina, where the food and water was welcomed with open arms.
Of everything being delivered, water absolutely the most critical, because for so many communities here, they are still cut off as a result of dozens of roads and bridges being knocked out.
Leaving resident David Castronova emotional.
When you hear that helicopter coming,
it's relief and support. It's knowing that people are out there caring about us.
You know you're not forgotten.
No, we know we're not forgotten. And we thank you guys.
Tonight, the recovery mission only beginning from one unprecedented storm. Morgan Chesky, NBC News.
Great reporting there from Morgan. You know, NBC News covers hundreds of stories each day. It's awfully tough to read, watch, or listen to everything. So our bureau teams have selected a few highlights. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions. It's a segment we call The Local. From our Northwest Bureau, the guardian of one of the bystanders shot by New York City police in that subway shooting last month is seeking $80 million in damages from the city. The 49-year-old now in the hospital with a brain injury. Now remember, police shot a man who allegedly didn't pay the fare after they say he charged at officers with a knife. Another bystander and a police officer were also injured. The city's law department has had no comment. Out of our Midwest Bureau, police in Minneapolis arrested a 10-year-old boy for driving a stolen car through a crowded playground. He's 10. Nobody injured, but it's not the first time this boy has done something like this. He's racked up 30 police entries in just over a year, including 2 previous arrests for auto theft. The county attorney's office says it's filing charges in the case because of the significant safety implications. Also in our Midwest Bureau, a Chicago woman got a big surprise when she found a python in her car, in her new car. It had launched itself deep in the sedan, but animal control officers eventually got it out. No word yet on how it got there. Animal Services now working to find this python a permanent home. Look somewhere else, please. We're back with questions swirling around what some think may be a miracle drug that can help you live longer. It's called rapamycin, commonly prescribed to organ transplant patients so they don't reject their organs. But some scientists and longevity seekers think it can do much more than that in delaying aging and age-related diseases. And it's become kind of trendy on podcasts, on social media, and forums devoted to anti-aging. But not everybody is convinced because there's not a lot of research in humans, especially since the drug is taken off-label or bought from overseas. Dr. John Torres joins us now. So, Dr. John, while some folks are saying that this may be something they should sign up for right away, are there potential risks here?
And there definitely are potential risks. And what we're talking about is the holy grail of medicine, finding that one thing that can actually stop us from aging, which is kind of everybody's wish, or at least aging slowly in a very good way. But when you look at this medicine, it's a medicine that's used for a variety of things. It's used for kidney transplants. It suppresses the immune system so the kidneys don't get rejected. It's used for some types of cancer treatments. And right now they're looking at it again for this anti-aging, but you can see the list there of side effects. And actually, when you look online at the list, this is one of the more extensive lists of side effects I've seen. However, I do have to put, these are at doses they use for rejection, higher doses than they do for the anti-aging properties they think they're seeing.
And then the big unknown is, could there be long-term side effects? You know, I've wondered the same thing, for example, about Ozempic, which is there's a craze. Everybody's taking Ozempic. And I think, OK, but what about 5 years down the road?
And kind of the bottom line to long-term side effects is we don't know long-term side effects until we get to that long-term point. And so we can look at it and go, we think this might happen. But there's been many drugs out there that 10, 20, 30 years later were like, oh, we didn't expect that side effect to happen. Now, the one thing here is these anti-aging properties we're seeing in mice. Mice are not people. And by that, I mean mice are much simpler and people age differently. And so, you know, is this the holy grail of anti-aging? I don't think so at this point. Is it certainly something to look into? Yes. Do you need to wait until the studies are done to make sure it's safe? Definitely.
But if you're also waiting for the long-term effects on people, not to mention mice, you may be waiting 5+ years,
you
10+
could,
years.
And, you know, for your kids and your kids' kids, 50, 100 years from now, maybe.
No, I want it now.
We all want it now. For us, I don't think we're quite there yet.
All right, John, thank you. Dr. John Torres. There is also a group of Americans who face many obstacles when they vote. We'll take you inside the challenges they face and what one woman says would really make her dream come true. We're coming back. Okay, we're just about a month until Election Day, and early voting is already kicking off in many states. But there are some Americans still fighting just to be able to cast a ballot. They say that they're being denied by various state laws, judges, and what some claim is a bias against certain people with disabilities. NBC's Yasmin Vasugian reports.
Catalina Rojas is urging people to get out and vote in November.
Catalina, what do you want to say to people?
Make sure you go and vote.
Go and vote.
Go and vote. Woo! Peace out.
The problem is she won't be able to vote herself. She has level 2 autism. After a traumatic experience, a sexual assault, a judge said she was incompetent and could not testify on her own behalf, which is a requirement to register to vote in New York State.
What is autism to you? What does it mean to you?
For me, I do something differently.
Catalina was diagnosed as a young child when her parents noticed she was not meeting the same milestones as her peers. So they acted.
We are really invested in her education. So she gets various therapies, which teaches her social-emotional skills to be able to interact with the neurotypical society.
Can you read, Catalina?
I can read.
Yeah. She loves to read dork diaries.
It was hard for anyone to stand out from the large crowd.
And she wants to vote. She just turned 18.
You want to vote in the election?
Yes.
Yeah, how come?
Because everybody can able to vote, but the law says you can't.
What do you mean the law says you can't?
Because of your diagnosis.
Voting laws are complicated and often are different by state. 13 states have laws barring voting by individuals who are under guardianship. These laws require a court determination of incompetence before removing the right to vote. And 10 states have no disability-related restrictions. But Catalina lives in New York, where a judge deeming one incompetent can strip their right to vote. One of 22 states, as well as D.C., where a judge can do that, according to the Bazelon Center for Mental Health Law.
Catalina had a situation where she was sexually assaulted last summer, and we had to go and be involved with the court system. And when the detective came to ask questions about what happened on that day, the detective specifically said, I don't know why I'm here because she is not deemed competent to testify.
And when Catalina's parents went to court, the judge, who never met Catalina, read the assessment from the detective and said she was incompetent to testify.
Was there ever a point when you were in this courtroom with this judge saying that she couldn't testify on her own behalf that you protested that notion?
No, I'm very respectful of the courts and court procedures, so I stayed quiet.
And that judgment having ripple effects when Patty, Catalina's mom, later tried to register her to vote after she turned 18. She went through the voter qualifications on the New York State voter registration form. And it said, quote, to register, you must not be found incompetent by a court.
I think it's an antiquated idea of what mental health and what our society used to think, where you were deemed all kinds of terrible words, and incompetent is the least of them. I think having a better understanding and discussion about this maybe can help enlighten, to advocate for not just us as parents for Catalina, but for Catalina to advocate for herself.
I am the mother to a neurodivergent young adult.
I'm a proud registered voter.
And Catalina's parents are not the only people advocating for neurodivergent people. So is an organization called First Place Arizona, which held an event called Vote the Spectrum to help equip voters who are disabled to vote in November, to familiarize voters with the voting process. A process Catalina hopes she can take part in one day, along with her dreams.
You want to be a singer?
Yes.
What kind of singer? What do you want to sing?
Paparazzi.
Paparazzi?
It's the only way.
Lady Gaga?
Yeah, it's the only way to get rid of these mean people.
What? To sing?
Yeah.
Because music brings people together?
Yeah.
Can you sing Paparazzi for me a little bit?
I want to be like anyone see, paparazzi.
She tortures me with that song.
An 18-year-old woman, free to dream, but not to vote.
And she's very sweet, it would appear. Yasmin, what a great story. What course of action?
Sweetest.
Yeah,
the
what kind of action can these folks take who feel like they've had their voting rights stripped away? And then do you have any feeling for how many people, voters, are out there that are getting affected by this?
It's hard to have the exact numbers, Tom, but it's significant, to say the least. Listen, I think you have to get a neuropsych evaluation. There are different degrees to neurodivergent people in this country. Catalina is just one of many neurodivergent people in this country, and many of them seek out neuropsych analyses to see kind of how competent, in fact, they are and to what degree they need help, especially as they become adults turning 18 years of age. And I think that's one course of action many individuals can take, is seeking out that neuropsych evaluation and then taking it to a judge. If, in fact, a judge has deemed an individual incompetent to testify in a court of law, to challenge that incompetence in a court of law, so, in fact, that you can register to vote. I mean, as Catalina has said so eloquently, along with her parents as well, it is a natural-born right to an individual in this country. It is a right to every individual in this country to cast their ballot and vote in November. And Catalina is just one of many individuals who want to be able to do that. And she's enthusiastic about it. She knows that she's 18 years of age and she wants to vote. She knows about the election. She knows who she wants to vote for. And she knows why, Tom, she wants to vote for that individual as well.
And she has her right to any opinion that she wants to have, and she can act on it, one would think. Yasmin, thank you. Great reporting. Thank you very much. That's a wrap for this hour. The coverage resumes right now on News Now. Here we go, top of the hour on a busy Friday, and we close out, as you know, a very busy week, and we come on the air tonight with with the search and rescue mission, I should say, in the southeast, growing more urgent by the hour. Thousands of people are still isolated. Many more are without power and critical supplies. What communities are doing to dig out and why it's taking so long to recover even basic essentials. And a record close on Wall Street with a record high for the Dow as investors rally on the blockbuster new jobs numbers, beating out a whole bunch of expectations. So is the economy actually pulling a soft landing? Kind of looks like it. And then we're going to take you on the campaign trail as Vice President Kamala Harris is set to bring out one of her biggest stars from her party. And we're also just learning she's sitting down on one of the most popular podcasts in the country. Plus, in tonight's original, we're taking an in-depth look at a pro-Hamas group planning protests on college campuses on the anniversary of October 7th. And the celebrity attention breathing new life into a 30-year-old murder case by the creator of that super popular Netflix show about the Menendez brothers. He thinks this pair could be out by Christmas. That will come up later in our newscast. Good day, I'm Tom Costello in for Hallie Jackson, and in just the last couple of hours, the Dow hit record highs after a new jobs report blew out the expectations. All of the indices closed up. Look at this, the Dow up 341 points today, a new all-time high for the Dow. The S&P up 51 points, almost 1%. The NASDAQ up 219 points, more than 1%. But on the S&P, it's now up 20% year to date. Here's why. The data shows more than 250,000 jobs created in September. The expectation was for about 150,000. So they really moved much well past expectations. All right, now that sent the unemployment rate ticking down to 4.1%. Here we are right now on the unemployment rate. The estimate was for 4.2%. So this really beat all the expectations. And it comes barely a month before the election when polls suggest many voters are going to be thinking about the economy and their wallets when they cast their ballots. President Biden earlier today spoke for the first time from the White House briefing room. He wanted to tout the economic progress and hit back at the naysayers.
From the very beginning, we were told time and again that the policies we were pursuing, we put forward weren't going to work, make things worse, including some of the other team are still saying they're going to make things worse. But we've proven them wrong.
NBC's Brian Chung covers business and economics. And Brian, the stock market's been on a hot streak here. We've also got unemployment at a 50-plus year low. Does this take the pressure off the Fed? One would think they don't need to be cutting rates again anytime soon.
Yeah, in order to answer that question, we have to acknowledge how we got here in the first place. The Federal Reserve's primary mission was taking inflation down when it peaked at around 9% in the summer of 2022. What did they do? They dramatically ratcheted interest rates up, and inflation has largely come down. But here's the question. In doing so, was the Federal Reserve at risk of letting the unemployment rate start to spike up? If borrowing costs are high, do businesses say, you know what, I'm going to start to lay people off? Well, that's not happening, at least according to this jobs report that we got this morning. So the unemployment rate taking down to 4.1%. Yes, it's been on the rise over the past 2 years, but as you mentioned, it's pretty low by historical standards. And when you add 254,000 jobs in a single month, again, Wall Street economists only expected about 150,000. This tells you that this is a strong, strong jobs market, especially when you consider where we saw the job gains, Tom. We saw it across the board: leisure and hospitality, construction, healthcare. This jobs market is firing on all cylinders, and one Bank of America analyst said it best. He gave it an A+ if you were to try to put this on a report card, Tom.
Yeah, and you know, we've been talking for a while about the so-called vibe session, right? The economy, all the numbers suggest it's doing really well. It's on fire. It looks great on paper, but many people feel the opposite. And you heard the president there. But does the White House deserve credit here? And we should stress, the Federal Reserve is independent from the White House. The Fed acts on its own.
Absolutely independent. But here's the thing is that you mentioned that vibe session. I mean, yes, you could talk about the BLS data over and over and over again, but these are just numbers. These are just statistics. What you really need to get across to Americans is whether or not what they're experiencing when they go to the store, when they take a look at their paychecks, is that lining up with their real life experience? But we were just showing earlier the statistics on wage growth versus inflation. This is a big story here because wage growth is currently outpacing inflation. Your wallets on an average basis, so this isn't everyone's experience, but on an average basis, it's up 4%, whereas price tags at the store and inflation is up 2.5%. That was not the dynamic in the years after the pandemic. It was often the case that inflation was eroding those wages, and that's why Americans feel that way. And they still might be feeling that way depending on where you are. But the broad macro figures tell us that that picture is improving. Do Americans start to feel that? Do they start to kind of experience that, especially as they go to the polls in a few weeks? That is a big question, especially for those that are trying to figure out who might win this election, Tom.
Well, and also that 2.5% inflation number is year over year, right? That does not tell you how much inflation has caused prices to skyrocket in the last 2.5 years.
Yep, prices are going up. They're just going up at a slow rate.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Brian Chung, who's joining us from L.A. All right, now to the Southeast. The search for people missing in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene still running into roadblocks at every turn. The death toll, listen to this, now stands at 223. A week after the storm made landfall in Florida, folks across the Southeast are still isolated, still struggling to get by. Like Florida's hospitals, which in just the last few minutes are reporting ongoing and growing supply disruptions of dialysis solutions because of damage to one provider's facility in North Carolina. Now, that's as rescue teams and volunteers are dispatching helicopters, all-terrain vehicles, even teams on horseback and mules to get supplies to some of those hard-to-hit, hard-to-reach places in the remote mountains of North Carolina. Nearly 680,000 people are still without power in the Carolinas and in Georgia. And we've got new videos showing the terrifying moments floodwater swept away parts of a building and a shipping container. As Nashville's River Art District, once a vibrant hub, is now a scene of devastation. Locals there are trying to recover what's left behind. Take a listen to what one artist told our Antonia Hilton.
I've spent a lot of time in the studio here, and I just went in there, and it's hard to look at. There's just there's mud on everything, on all the equipment that we've used to make beautiful art. We're just trying to do what we can to save what's left of our art community here.
All right, NBC's Sam Brock is in North Carolina for us. Sam, North Carolina's Governor Roy Cooper says a lot of communication lines that had been down over the last few days are starting to become restored. But in the western part of the state, that's still not the case, right? A lot of people still out of touch. Water systems are down as well. Talk about what these folks are up against.
Yeah, it's incredibly spotty in terms of the telecommunications right now, Tom, and you hit the two major issues on the head. Water services, running water, and being able to call and use your cell phone to reach loved ones and family members. Those are the two issues under the microscope at the moment. Let me start you off with water first. We just got an update from county officials about 30 to 45 minutes ago. They have successfully restored one of their smaller water treatment plants, but there are two others. The second one, which is not even close to being restored, provides water to 80% of the city. They've had to dig 25 feet underneath the ground, Tom, to try to repair those pipelines. There's not even a timeline that county officials are providing in terms of when that might be accomplished. We're no closer to that. And by the way, you can drive around here for 3 or 4 hours and not find an operable bathroom. So imagine how that feels for tens of thousands of residents trying to get around that. Cellular services, same thing right now. It's definitely improved in the recent, I would say, last day to day and a half. You'll be driving around and see bars come up and then quickly go away. The reason that it's so relevant, you know, the Starlinks that are being brought in and these miniature sort of wireless towers that are also being delivered, it's so significant because people can't get a hold of loved ones that otherwise would be a phone call away to confirm they're all right. And so these numbers of missing persons have fluctuated wildly the last couple of days. And then on top of that, I'll throw one other thing at you. Home insurance, businesses insurance. I'm standing here at a barbecue place, and right next door, this mud pit behind me, everything they have here, all their food, all their kitchen equipment gone. They cannot obtain flood insurance. Here's what the owner told me. Is there any viable reason to have thought you would need flood insurance for your business?
Never. There's a Buncombe County flood map, and we are not in the flood zone. So, and I would say that for the majority of the mountain people, there's no reason to have flood insurance. This doesn't happen.
Until now, Tom, by one account, 98% of homeowners and businesses here have no flood insurance.
Oh, goodness gracious. So it's all out of their own pocket and maybe state and federal help, I guess. Sam, thank you very much. We appreciate your reporting. More breaking news into us now from the Persian Gulf with U.S. and British forces today striking more than a dozen Houthi targets in Yemen, going after weapon systems, bases, and other equipment belonging to the Iranian-backed rebels. U.S. Central Command confirming the strikes, which come just days after the Houthis apparently shot down a U.S. military drone flying over Yemen. And the U.S. strikes come as tension in the region continues to escalate. Iran's supreme leader today warned of more attacks against Israel after a new wave of Israeli strikes in Beirut targeted Hezbollah's presumed new leader. We have team coverage on the ground, NBC's Aaron McLaughlin in Tel Aviv. However, let's start with NBC's global security reporter, Dan DeLuce. Dan, give us a primer on what's behind the Houthis' latest attacks and how does this all fit into Israel's conflict with Hezbollah and Iran?
Tom, you know, the Houthis have been striking at commercial ships, both and U.S. naval vessels in the Red Sea now for months. They've attacked over 100 ships over the past year, and the U.S. Navy is often shooting down these missiles and drones that are going after commercial ships or trying to get at the U.S. Navy there. But in the end, commercial shipping has been really affected by this, and most major cargo companies are just bypassing the area entirely. Now, this is all happening against the backdrop, as you say, of this growing conflict between Israel and Iran. And the whole region is now expecting Israel to retaliate for Iran's missile strikes earlier this week that targeted Israel. And now the Houthis are this proxy force that Iran arms and supports. And so the fear now is that the Houthis may ratchet up their attacks either on U.S. Navy ships there or on commercial ships that are still trying to get across that Red Sea waterway. So this is an example of how this conflict is affecting so many countries there. And keep in mind, that's where oil moves through that region to the rest of the world. And the Gulf countries on the other side of Iran's Persian Gulf there, they're concerned about how this conflict between Israel and Iran could affect them and could in turn affect the oil markets.
Yeah, and the Houthis are proxies from Iran. Dan, thank you very much. Let's go now to Erin McLaughlin. She's in Tel Aviv. Erin, Israeli media reporting a drone attack that killed 2 Israeli soldiers in the Golan Heights. What more do we know about that attack?
Yeah, that's right, Tom. According to Israeli media reports, an Iran-backed militia inside of Iraq launched 2 drones toward the Israeli-controlled Golan Heights. Both drones laden with explosives. Israeli defense systems, according to these media reports, managed to shoot down one of the drones, but was unable to defend against the other. That drone exploding on a base, killing at least 2 Israeli soldiers, both 19 years old, and wounding 24 others. This is being seen as significant because it's the first attack, the first casualties of its kind since the conflict began, and it's happening as there's this intense and continued fighting in nearby Lebanon. There was an intense Israeli bombardment for yet another day. According to Lebanese officials, more than 150 Israeli airstrikes at different points across the country. And we're speaking to doctors inside of hospitals in southern Lebanon. One doctor inside of a hospital telling us that the hospital is absolutely full of casualties, victims suffering polytrauma, damage to their heads, to multiple injuries as the ground offensive to the south continues. Today there was a briefing with journalists. An Israeli military spokesperson said that they have killed so far more than 250 Hezbollah fighters since Monday, and that as they're working to clear out these towns and villages along the border. This as Israeli officials say that Hezbollah continues to fire rockets on Israel, more than 220 rockets fired today, with no end in sight to this violence, Tom.
Okay, Erin, thank you very much. Erin McLaughlin. All right, now to the former president, who in the last hour received a briefing on the damage from Hurricane Helene. Mr. Trump is in Georgia, standing side by side with a Republican he hasn't exactly gotten along with, the state's popular governor, Brian Kemp. Mr. Trump saying he feels for the victims, while again baselessly attacking FEMA for its response.
A lot of the money that was supposed to go to Georgia and supposed to go to North Carolina and all of the others is going and has gone already. It's been gone for people that came into the country illegally, and nobody's ever seen anything like that. That's a shame.
Okay, our reporting suggests that simply is not true. In a statement, FEMA tells NBC News claims about diverted disaster money are completely false, and that they have the necessary resources to meet the immediate needs associated with Hurricane Helene. It's ahead of Mr. Trump's big return tomorrow to Butler, Pennsylvania, the site of the first assassination attempt against him back in July. NBC's Dasha Burns is there in Butler, PA already. Dasha, what will this rally look like tomorrow? We hear that he has some big guests coming.
Yeah, some big guests and a huge difference when it comes to security. So Elon Musk said today that he will be joining the former president tomorrow. He'll also be joined, Tom, by the family of Corey Comperator, the firefighter father who was shot and killed at that rally on July 13th, along with first responders and other rally goers, local law enforcement. So it's going to be a long list of folks who have some ties to that tragic event and that tragic day. Security-wise, I was there on July 13th. I cannot tell you how different it already feels, and it's not even rally day. You can't get anywhere near the rally site. Last time around, people were free to roam around the area, check out the setup. This time, if you get anywhere near it, security turns you away. We watched them set up some heavy equipment, shipping containers, things like that, to block line of sight. We're hearing from Secret Service, from local law enforcement, that they are out in full force, using technology, using drones, surveillance. Basically, every tool in the toolbox is going to be out here. Really, it's been out here for the last few days, but certainly on full display tomorrow, Tom.
Yeah, I remember your coverage that day. You were excellent with shots being fired. You spoke with people who were at the past rally as well and who plan to go tomorrow, right? So why is that important for them?
Yeah, Tom, I actually revisited some of the people that I first met on July 13th in that parking lot in the aftermath of everything, and I spoke to them again. They told me they really feel like it's a big step in the healing process to come back and to finish that rally. As you'll remember, it was only a few minutes into his speech that those shots were fired. I want to introduce you to Donna and Joe Lutz, a mother-son who we met that day. Here's what they told me.
Why are you going back?
I'm going back for a few reasons. Number one, Joey wants to go. I'm going back for that, number one. Number two, I believe in President Trump.
Just like get to produce people that don't get to scare us.
Tom, they're not the only ones. Multiple people I met that day said they're coming back. This is something that's impacted this community, this part of Pennsylvania, folks from Ohio as well who came on that day. This is something that really the Trump campaign wants to be a significant moment, both for the campaign, but also for all of the people that were impacted by those events of July 13th, Tom.
Okay, Dasha Burns, thank you very much. In just the last few minutes, Vice President Kamala Harris has begun addressing voters in Flint, Michigan. That's a battleground state, as you know. There she is, looking live at her. She's also scoring a major endorsement, Michigan State star and basketball legend, former Magic Johnson.
Now the biggest moment for all of us. November the 5th, we have to do all we can to elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States.
Well, soon she'll get a hand from arguably the most popular member of her party, former President Barack Obama. He plans to make a return to the campaign trail on Thursday with a rally in Pittsburgh. NBC's Aaron Gilchrist is in Washington for us. Aaron, what do we know about Mr. Obama's plan to help out the VP here?
Well, Tom, this is something that we expected to be coming. We heard former President Obama say during the Democratic convention that he wanted to do everything that he could to help Vice President Harris win the election in November. And so officially now we do have this announcement that former President Obama will be on the campaign trail in a battleground state for the first time for the Harris-Walz ticket this coming Thursday. That will happen in the Pittsburgh area, an area, mind you, that the Vice President herself and Governor Tim Walz have visited several times over the course of the last couple of months. The Vice President, we know, spent about a week in the Pittsburgh area prepping for the debate she had with former President Trump a few weeks back. And so to see President Obama in that area as well really speaks to, one, the value that he has as a surrogate for this campaign, and two, the significance of Pennsylvania, and in particular the Pittsburgh area. When we look at Allegheny County and Beaver County in that area, two areas where there are political differences, Allegheny County being a blue county effectively, Beaver County being more red. This is an area that the Harris-Walz campaign has really been trying to push the margins in, one where they believe that they can just get a few people to vote their way. That could be helpful to them in winning Pennsylvania and potentially winning over these places that have traditionally been a little more red, Tom.
Hey, Aaron, you know, we're also learning that the Harris campaign plans to ramp up negative messaging about the former president. How do they plan to do that?
Well, this is something that we've not really seen the vice president do extensively on the campaign trail. Obviously, she has been she's been on the trail and she's talked about former President Trump, and she's hit him on issues where she believes he's weak and she is strong. And so that's not something that would be surprising. But the idea from several campaign officials is that there's a plan to more aggressively go after former President Trump in the remaining weeks of the election. And the hope that we understand from several campaign officials is to move the small number of undecided voters into the Harris camp, if you will, to get their support for her in the coming election in November. And there's some campaign data, internal data, that suggests if she's more willing to be negative, quite frankly, in talking about former President Trump, that is something that may be able to persuade some of these undecided voters. At the same time, Tom, we do expect that the vice president will continue to talk about her plans for the future, the positive vision that she has been talking about in the last several months, even as she ramps up these negative attacks on former President Trump.
You know, the polls don't seem to be moving much at all, Aaron. So the fact that she seems to be going negative in at least some messaging, does that suggest she's concerned?
I don't know that it suggests concern. I mean, quite frankly, this is not something that's wholly unusual to see in October, right? We know that campaigns typically have much more time than the vice president has had at the top of the ticket to talk about their ideas, to push forward policy ideas, to try to make sure that voters know who they are as individuals. The vice president is focused very much on that since taking over the top of the ticket at the end of July. And she's taken the opportunity as well to go after former President Trump. And so now we're here in October, where most Americans have made decisions about who they intend to vote for. And there's got to be some effort to go after that handful of undecided voters. And part of the plan for the Harris campaign, one that includes coalition building and barnstorming these battleground states all over the country, part of that plan now is to make sure that there's more effort to go more aggressively after the former President Trump, Tom.
All right, Aaron, thank you very much. Aaron Gilchrist. Coming up, another false start for President Biden's student loan program. Why a judge put the plan on pause again. And a second person is dead as a mosquito-borne disease spreads in the Northeast. What you should know about EEE, triple E virus. That's coming up. Okay, we're back now with tonight's original in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, as the anniversary of Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel approaches and the number of people killed in the war in Gaza tops 40,000, college campuses across the country are getting ready for a new wave of demonstrations. Our Tom Winter sat down with the leader of one group helping to organize pro-Palestinian protests, now facing congressional scrutiny over their message and their methods.
The people are by your side.
New York, Atlanta,
Free Palestine.
Los Angeles. Campus protests erupting across the country last spring, a response to Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza after the brutal terrorist attacks on October 7th. Hundreds taken hostage and over 1,000 dead, then tens of thousands killed in Gaza and mass destruction. Closer to home, new questions about free speech, extremism, and foreign influence. Not to mention hundreds of arrests and questions from Congress about some of the groups involved. One drawing scrutiny?
There is nothing wrong with being a member of Hamas.
Samadoun, a pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel advocacy group.
These are the people that are on the front lines defending Palestine and fighting for its liberation.
That's Samadoun co-founder and international coordinator Charlotte Cates, taking part in Resistance 101, a webinar held in March by a student group at Columbia University. Samadoun, which means steadfast in Arabic, is banned in Germany and Israel for its vocal support of designated terror groups.
Most of what we do is kind of the activism that you see people do every day in their communities. So that's organizing demonstrations, that's organizing political education events and seminars.
Kate spoke to us remotely from Vancouver, where she was arrested on hate speech charges for defending Hamas's actions on October 7th at a rally.
Long live October 7th!
Samadoun has co-sponsored several protests in the U.S. over the last year, both on campuses and at major events like the DNC. We wanted to get a better sense of what Cates is saying to college students and protesters.
Do you think the Israeli state has a right to exist?
The so-called Israeli state is a settler colony, and it never had a right to exist. There's no such thing as a state's right to exist.
You supported Hamas's actions on October 7th. Is that accurate?
And when we have spoken about October 7th as a brave, heroic operation, that is something that we stand by 100%.
So you look at the events of October 7th, not only as something that you support, but you also believe that it was justified.
I think that Palestinians fighting for their liberation is an absolute right.
Throughout our almost 2-hour-long interview, Cates called Israel a colonizer or referenced colonialism more than 40 times, including after several questions about the death of Israeli civilians on October 7th.
What do you say to those individuals who were at a concert that did not have a weapon? Was it heroic for that action to take place?
I do think it is heroic that Palestinians broke out of the siege on Gaza. Palestinians have a right to resist, and that what we saw on the 7th of October was a heroic operation designed to achieve the Palestinian people's liberation.
I guess the question is, where does it end? Do two wrongs make a right?
We're not talking about two wrongs. We're talking about a colonizer, and we're talking about a colonized people fighting for freedom.
Cates has said similar things in her speeches and webinars with students.
And they took an action that they understood is necessary in order to make change.
Members of Congress now asking questions about Samadoun's funding.
How we can make sure we are following the money.
Following the money isn't easy. A U.S.-based nonprofit, Alliance for Global Justice, processes donations on Samadoun's behalf, and tax law doesn't require them to report who is giving Samadoun money. The Alliance for Global Justice didn't respond to our request for comment, but Cates says her organization follows all U.S. laws and regulations. In a letter to the Secretary of the Treasury, House lawmakers have asked for reports on 20 organizations involved in campus protests, including Samadoun, looking into where their money comes from.
How much money, even if it's just a ballpark, would you say Samadoun has raised or you've raised here in North America?
I mean, we've raised thousands of dollars.
Ultimately, the question here is, where's your money coming from? Where are you really getting your support?
Well, one of the things that's really amazing about standing against genocides is that, like, a lot of people want to see the genocide end. There's sometimes this discourse about, like, funding of protests that makes it sound as if, like, having a demonstration requires hundreds of thousands of dollars. No, it just requires, like, hundreds of people that actually care about a cause.
A cause that led Cates to Iran in August, where she accepted a humanitarian award, drawing even more scrutiny. But she told us she's not funded by nor affiliated with Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, or any U.S.-designated terrorist organization.
Support can be anything from money to services to personnel.
Laura Burns spent 2 decades at the FBI investigating terror groups.
Certainly there's a component of the protest activity that are individuals who simply want peace. But if you look closely at a number of the activities and the organizations that are involved in these protests and encampments, there is a theme of support for Hamas, which is a designated terrorist organization.
Whether that support violates federal law, something called material support, can be difficult to prove, Burns says, without tax reform.
The laws surrounding tax-exempt organizations' reporting requirements should be enhanced to require more transparency and more accountability.
We asked Cates about questions raised by lawmakers that she and her organization are effectively acting on behalf of U.S.-designated terrorist groups.
The concept of material support requires that there is a form of material support. You actually have to, provide money or weapons or services to that organization. And that's not what's happening here. We're talking about expressing moral and political support.
There are no known criminal investigations in the U.S. involving Cates or Samadoun. In the midst of the Jewish High Holy Days, and as the anniversary of October 7th approaches, tensions are high. There are Jewish student groups around the country saying they worry about a repeat of last spring. Some protest groups say Congress is unfairly portraying their demonstrations as pro-Hamas when they are calling for peace. And universities and cities, caught in the middle, challenge to balance free speech with public safety. As for Cates, she says her organization will continue to speak out.
Essentially, we're seeing a situation where Palestinian lives are considered nameless, expendable, and pointless, and Israeli lives, even if they are literal soldiers, engaging in a colonial war are considered precious and very important.
What do you all see for October 7th this year, or around that time period?
There's many actions and demonstrations being mobilized. We're going to be out in the streets and we're going to be mobilized until this ongoing colonial project comes to an end.
Tom Winter joins us now. You know, freedom of speech. She can say whatever she wants, right?
That's right.
On the other hand, she calls Hamas's October 7th attack heroic. More than 1,000 people died. And there is a legitimate concern about the people living in Gaza and their plight. But where does Congress stand on all of this?
So there's been a recent development in this. One of the organizations that we talked about, the Alliance for Global Justice, there was a letter that was sent from the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, Jason Smith, asking the IRS to look into them and ultimately strip them of their nonprofit status. So that's ongoing. They cite some of our previous reporting on both that organization as well as Samadoun. So this is something that is definitely relevant at this time. Whether it ultimately leads to any sort of action or criminal charges, we'll see. And as you know, we noted in the piece, we did reach out to that organization that is processing these payments. So that's kind of where that stands. This all comes, Tom, as the FBI tonight warning about these October 7th protests and wanting people to be vigilant here in the next couple of days.
Yeah. Did I miss this? You said she's in. She Canadian?
She's in Vancouver. That's where she's based. That's where she's living. She was arrested there as part of a rally and a speech that she gave, and potentially facing charges. They can make an arrest. Whether or not they ultimately go through with a criminal prosecution, that's something we'll be tracking as well, Tom.
On this Rosh Hashanah night, thank you very much, Tom Winter. All right, let's get you over now to the 5 things our team thinks you might want to know about tonight on a Friday. Number 1, the co-creator of the Netflix show giving new life to the Menendez brothers murder case now says he thinks the brothers could be out of prison by Christmas. The L.A. District Attorney says he's re-examining the case. The brothers were convicted, you may recall, of killing their parents about 30 years ago. It comes as NBC News exclusively obtained a letter written by Kim Kardashian pushing for their release. She writes, quoting here, many people believe the crimes the brothers committed are unforgivable. But what about the decades of alleged abuse they suffered as children? Number 2, a second person living in New Hampshire has died of Eastern equine encephalitis, according to state health officials there. EE is a rare but often fatal infection in the brain. It's the 5th case in that state this year. The CDC says the best way to avoid the virus is to protect yourself against mosquito bites. Number 3, police moved in fast when an Ohio woman's videos of a rug buried in her backyard went viral. I have no idea why, but the woman said she and her husband were digging a hole and they found a rolled up carpet. What would you think? Well, police and cadaver dogs came in to investigate, and both dogs sat on the hole. According to our affiliate, police say the pieces of carpet tested negative for human and animal remains. Number 4, a federal judge in Missouri has put President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan on hold again. Just yesterday, a judge in Georgia let a temporary pause on the plan expire. It's all part of this lawsuit by multiple Republican states, which say the administration's aid package is illegal. Number 5, Spirit Airlines shares plunged nearly 30% today after the Wall Street Journal reported the airline is potentially filing for bankruptcy. Spirit stock has lost more than 85% of its value this year after struggling with the fallout of its failed merger with JetBlue. Later in the newscast from us, a bird's eye view of Hurricane Helene's total destruction, what our correspondent saw during an aerial tour. And forget Halloween. Christmas came early in Venezuela, while workers there are scrambling to get those decorations up. Yeah. Back now with more on our top story out of Tennessee, where the aftermath of Hurricane Helene has left multiple communities inaccessible and in dire need of help. A week after the storm battered the region, supplies are pouring in to disaster relief centers as helicopters fly out nonstop to deliver those supplies to people who need them most. NBC's Morgan Chesky joined an Army National Guard chopper crew in their race to help the victims.
High above a battered Tennessee, we join the Army National Guard in a Black Hawk helicopter. Turn Lifeline. And if you look out over the beautiful hills of Tennessee, this is what was partially responsible for so much damage, because when you have 30 inches of rain falling in a short time, all of that water converged on these river valleys, wiping out nearly everything in its path.
Our first stop, Elk Mills, Tennessee. The flood damage near catastrophic after waters destroyed 2 crucial bridges, essentially cutting off the entire town.
It's heartbreaking because there used to be a fire hall right there where that helicopter's sitting, and it washed away with the tanker truck. So it's devastating.
The site of so many supplies, bringing Becky Vines almost to tears, knowing the goods flown in by her town another day or two.
It's amazing that they will come together like that to help this small town, this small community, everybody that's been impacted by this flood. It's amazing.
Back in the air, the storm's path couldn't be more clear.
And as we look down right now, you are going to see a hillside with trees absolutely flattened. This was not a tornado. This was just the aftermath of the hurricane when it tore its way through here.
From there, we went to hard-hit Unicoi County, where officials reported 4 additional deaths on Thursday. A high school now the epicenter of its recovery effort.
Is there anything that this community doesn't need right now?
No, there's nothing. There's nothing.
Tim Love guiding an army of volunteers, rushing to reload choppers, knowing time is precious.
Our county's cut in half. Was cut in half. We've lost a hospital, and we've lost life, but we're banding together.
Our final flight took us to Mitchell County, North Carolina, where the food and water was welcomed with open arms.
Of everything being delivered, water absolutely the most critical, because for so many communities here, they are still cut off as a result of dozens of roads and bridges being knocked out.
Leaving resident David Castronova emotional.
When you hear that helicopter coming,
it's relief and support. It's knowing that people are out there caring about us.
You know you're not forgotten.
No, we know we're not forgotten. And we thank you guys.
Tonight, the recovery mission only beginning from one unprecedented storm. Morgan Chesky, NBC News.
Morgan Chesky on the ground there and in the air. Let's bring in now NBC's Bill Cairns, who has more on the weather as it is about to hit Florida, right, Bill? It looks like we're getting more rain in Florida and just adding to more misery as they try to clean up from last week's storm.
No matter what, it's going to rain a lot in Florida. We just don't know if this is going to develop into a full-blown tropical system with a name, possibly tropical storm, maybe worst-case scenario, low-end hurricane. And that's what we're going to figure out in the next couple of days. You can already see some spinning bands here off the coast of Texas, and this is the coast of Mexico. So this is all the way on the other side of the western Gulf. So this has a long ways to go to get to Florida. So it's going to take at least to probably about Wednesday, looks to be the timing of when the worst would get to Florida. Probably start raining very hard on Tuesday. And the Hurricane Center is saying this has a 50-50 chance of becoming our next named tropical system as we go throughout most likely the beginning of next week. This weekend, things should be kind of slow to develop. And so here's how our computer models are looking at it. This is our European computer model. It does take what would be likely a tropical storm or maybe a low-end hurricane right into areas right around Sarasota, just south of Tampa here. And this would be Wednesday morning into Wednesday afternoon. In case you're wondering rainfall amounts, it looks like the southern half of Florida is favored for the highest rainfall amounts, and we could see some totals here approaching a foot. Our American GFS model, kind of similar, does slowly develop this thing and brings it just south of Tampa. So there is kind of excellent agreement that something is coming. Things do not look favorable for like what we call a big, powerful storm like Helene was. But as we know, even a strong tropical storm or low-end hurricane can produce significant wind and storm surge and rainfall issues, too. And in case you're wondering where we are in the names, we have flown through some names. We have some storms way out in the Atlantic like Kirk and Leslie. The next named storm, if that one does form in the Gulf, would be Milton, Tom. So we'll wait and see how that goes.
Okay, Bill, thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and it's awfully tough to read, watch, or listen to everything. So our teams around the world have done it for you, and this is what they say is going on, and we call this segment The Global. From the Democratic Republic of Congo, the country's health minister says Mpox vaccinations will be available starting tomorrow. It comes as cases there surged to almost 31,000, with nearly 1,000 deaths from the disease since the beginning of the year. The vaccine will be only available to adults for now. Out of Thailand, a popular elephant sanctuary in Bangkok forced to evacuate about 100 elephants today after flash floods. The sanctuary says some elephants have been swept away in the floods, with 2 still missing. Another 9 are trapped in the sanctuary, too big and wild to relocate. And in Venezuela, it looks like Christmas came early. Workers rushed to decorate the capital after the president there ordered the holiday season to start in October, 2 months early. It's an attempt to lift spirits after his very highly disputed presidential election has caused widespread concern. Still ahead, some Americans are looking to slow down the aging process, and they're hyping what they call a miracle drug. What are medical experts saying about the benefits and risks of rapamycin? We're back with questions swirling around what some think may be a miracle drug that can help you live longer. It's called rapamycin, commonly prescribed to organ transplant patients so they don't reject their organs. But some scientists and longevity seekers think it can do much more than that in delaying aging and age-related diseases. And it's become kind of trendy on podcasts, on social media, and forums devoted to anti-aging. But not everybody is convinced because there's not a lot of research in humans, especially since the drug is taken off-label or bought from overseas. Dr. John Torres joins us now. So, Dr. John, while some folks are saying that this may be something they should sign up for right away, are there potential risks here?
And there definitely are potential risks. And what we're talking about is the holy grail of medicine, finding that one thing that can actually stop us from aging, which is kind of everybody's wish, or at least aging slowly in a very good way. But when you look at this medicine, it's a medicine that's used for a variety of things. It's used for kidney transplants. It suppresses the immune system so the kidneys don't get rejected. It's used for some types of cancer treatments. And right now they're looking at it, again, for this anti-aging, but you can see the list there of side effects. And actually, when you look online at the list, this is one of the more extensive list of side effects I've seen. However, I do have to put, these are at doses they use for rejection, higher doses than they do for the anti-aging properties they think they're seeing.
And then the big unknown is, could there be long-term side effects? You know, I've wondered the same thing, for example, about Ozempic, which is there's a craze. Everybody's taking Ozempic, and I think, okay, but what about 5 years down the road?
And kind of the bottom line to long-term side effects is we don't know long-term side effects until we get to that long-term point. And so we can look at it and go, we think this might happen, but there's been many drugs out there that 10, 20, 30 years later we're like, oh, we didn't expect that side effect to happen. Now, the one thing here is these anti-aging properties we're seeing in mice. Mice are not people. And by that, I mean mice are much simpler and people age differently. And so, you know, is this the holy grail of anti-aging? I don't think so at this point. Is it certainly something to look into? Yes. Do you need to wait until the studies are done to make sure it's safe? Definitely.
But if you're also waiting for the long-term effects on people, not to mention mice, you may be waiting 5+ years,
you
10+
could,
years.
And, you know, for your kids and your kids' kids, 50, 100 years from now, maybe.
No, I want it now.
We all want it now. For us, I don't think we're quite there yet.
All right, John, thank you. Dr. John Torres. There is also a group of Americans who face many obstacles when they vote. We'll take you inside the challenges they face and what one woman says would really make her dream come true. We're coming back. Okay, we're just about a month until Election Day, and early voting is already kicking off in many states. But there are some Americans still fighting just to be able to cast a ballot. They say that they're being denied by various state laws, judges, and what some claim is a bias against certain people with disabilities. NBC's Yasmin Vasugian reports.
Catalina Rojas is urging people to get out and vote in November.
Catalina, what do you want to say to people?
Make sure you go and vote.
Go and vote.
Go and vote.
Woo!
Peace out.
The problem is she won't be able to vote herself. She has level 2 autism. After a traumatic experience, a sexual assault, a judge said she was incompetent and could not testify on her own behalf, which is a requirement to register to vote in New York State.
What is autism to you? What does it mean to you?
For me, I do something differently.
Catalina was diagnosed as a young child when her parents noticed she was not meeting the same milestones as her peers. So they acted.
We are really invested in her education. So she gets various therapies, which teaches her social-emotional skills to be able to interact with the neurotypical society.
Can you read, Catalina?
I can read.
She loves to read dork diaries.
It was hard for anyone to stand out from the large crowd.
And she wants to vote. She just turned 18.
You want to vote in the election?
Yes.
Yeah, how come?
Because everybody can able to vote, but the law says you can't.
What do you mean the law says you can't?
Because of your diagnosis.
Voting laws are complicated and often are different by state. 13 states have laws barring voting by individuals who are under guardianship. These laws require a court determination of incompetence before removing the right to vote. And 10 states have no disability-related restrictions. But Catalina lives in New York, where a judge deeming one incompetent can strip their right to vote. One of 22 states, as well as D.C., where a judge can do that, according to the Bazelon Center for Mental Health Law.
Catalina had a situation where she was sexually assaulted last summer, and we had to go and be involved with the court system. And when the detective came to ask questions about what happened on that day, the detective specifically said, I don't know why I'm here, because she is not deemed competent to testify.
And when Catalina's parents went to court, the judge, who never met Catalina, read the assessment from the detective and said she was incompetent to testify.
Was there ever a point when you were in this courtroom with this judge saying that she couldn't testify on her own behalf that you protested that notion?
No, I'm very respectful of the courts and court procedures, so I stayed quiet.
And that judgment having ripple effects when Patty, Catalina's mom, later tried to register her to vote after she turned 18. She went through the voter qualifications on the New York State voter registration form. And it said, quote, to register, you must not be found incompetent by a court.
I think it's an antiquated idea of what mental health and what our society used to think, where you were deemed all kinds of terrible words, and incompetent is the least of them. I think having a better understanding and discussion about this maybe can help enlighten, to advocate for not just us as parents for Catalina, but for Catalina to advocate for herself.
I am the mother to a neurodivergent young adult.
I'm a proud registered voter.
And Catalina's parents are not the only people advocating for neurodivergent people. So is an organization called First Place Arizona, which held an event called Vote the Spectrum to help equip voters who are disabled to vote in November, to familiarize voters with the voting process. A process Catalina hopes she can take part in one day, along with her dreams.
You want to be a singer?
Yes.
What kind of singer? What do you want to sing?
Paparazzi.
Paparazzi?
It's the only way.
Lady Gaga?
Yeah, it's the only way to get rid of these mean people.
What? To sing?
Yeah.
Because music brings people together?
Yeah.
Can you sing Paparazzi for me a little bit?
I want to be like everyone see, paparazzi.
She tortures me with that song.
An 18-year-old woman, free to dream, but not to vote.
And she's very sweet, it would appear. Yasmin, what a great story. What course of action?
Sweetest.
Yeah, what kind of action can these folks take who feel like they've had their voting rights stripped away? And then do you have any feeling for how many people, voters, are out there that are getting affected by this?
It's hard to have the exact numbers, Tom, but it's significant, to say the least. Listen, I think you have to get a neuropsych evaluation. There are different degrees to neurodivergent people in this country. Catalina is just one of many neurodivergent people in this country, and many of them seek out neuropsych analyses to see kind of how competent, in fact, they are and to what degree they need help, especially as they become adults turning 18 years of age. And I think that's one course of action many individuals can take, is seeking out that neuropsych evaluation and then taking it to a judge. If, in fact, a judge has deemed an individual incompetent to testify in a court of law, to challenge that incompetence in a court of law, so, in fact, that you can register to vote. I mean, as Catalina has said so eloquently, along with her parents as well, it is a natural-born right to an individual in this country. It is a right to every individual in this country to cast their ballot and vote in November. And Catalina is just one of many individuals who want to be able to do that. And she's enthusiastic about it. She knows that she's 18 years of age and she wants to vote. She knows about the election. She knows who she wants to vote for. And she knows why, Tom, she wants to vote for that individual as well.
And she's has her right to any opinion that she wants to have, and she can act on it, one would think. Yasmin, thank you. Great reporting. Thank you very much. That's a wrap for this hour. The coverage resumes right now on News Now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.